What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we're providing you a state of the market and stock picks for January 19th, 2023. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing as we do provide daily and weekly updates to get you prepared for the day and the week ahead in this glorious market. So today was a big day in general. There are two big things that kicked off this morning. First off, the market really attempted to push to break this, and I thought briefly for the first hour of the day, I thought we would actually broke, and we were going to get a short squeeze coming into the day. I was prepared for that, but considering technical wise, this trend line has been holding us down for a year, and today was no different. Timing of the event seemed to be perfect today. But nonetheless, this is why I talk about managing risk and to not believe in every pump. There has to be real reason. There has to be a track record of good progress for us to completely pivot. And that has not happened. These parabolic moves are hopium, and you're bound to have a drop off at the end of it. So being said, today we started the day, we started pumping again. I thought there could have been potentially, there's always the chance that it could still happen. It's always 50-50 every candlestick. So if it wasn't right, this market would be too easy to predict, but it isn't, right? It's always a 50-50 chance. You wait for it to happen, then you react after it happens, not guess. And then you're having to essentially tag out every 2 seconds because you keep guessing the wrong way. So being said, today we opened the market opened up. The PPI really didn't have a ton in it, right? It really didn't do. The market was again very indecisive candle. It started pushing. In general, still in earnings mode. Banks still have crappy earnings, and the market was still trying to rip. Again, given there's been a lot of rumors and talks of a 25-point basis move, that's what was going to be essentially going to happen. Then almost at the same time, you had Bullard come on and say that, no, we're hitting a 50-point basis move. And something I talked about yesterday, the ECB, people were predicting 25, and they said, no, we're doing a 50-point basis move. So this is why you need to always be watching the ECB and what they do. They normally report what they're doing before we do, and we typically follow them almost verbatim. So keep that in mind. So don't be surprised if we get a 50-point basis move, and that's what Bullard said today. The market started selling, but on top of all that, you had Powell who tested positive for COVID. So there's the scare there. Now, this could be a potential black swan. Powell, again, is no young man. Now, whatever your thoughts are about it, it is what it is. But if something does happen to Powell, you can guarantee the index is going to drop 300, 400, 500 points if something happens to him. And that will be a black swan that could crash the market. Especially in a time that we are currently in. Even though people may not like what Powell has done, he's still been pretty transparent for his position. I think he's handled that position well, whether they like him or not, whether he prints money or not, whatever the case is. But the position he's given, I think he's handled it well. And so far, if he's gone, you're going to introduce a lot of panic, especially in a time when people are waiting. What is the next move by Powell? What is the next move by Powell? Now he's got COVID. Hopefully he's okay. If not, the market could potentially crash from this. This is the black swan. There are many black swans we've talked about. There's always random ones that you don't see coming and then they happen. This could lead to something big. You have to keep that in mind. That's why I say, especially in a market like this, when everything is so sensitive to the data and to what's going on with the Fed. Again, it's not always that way, but right now it certainly most is. And so he is the man of the hour, and now he is sick. Given because of his old age, that's the concern. So we wait and we see. But the market started selling off heavy. And again, it didn't bounce. It didn't want to bounce today. That is an issue. Tomorrow, we may gap down. We may start seeing more. It might be even a bloodier day tomorrow. That is a problem. Tomorrow, we do have Netflix after hours. Now, given they lost like 1 million subscribers, and then all of a sudden, I think they gained like 1 million subscribers in the last earnings. So it started running up, even though they were losing tons of money. So expectations are so low that as long as they beat those shitty expectations, they're running is what's happening. So you need to keep that in mind. Being said, we pulled back. That trend line again has held. It's a higher low, right? Higher low is going to be an issue. Now you can consider this. This could be a higher low here, and we could potentially, this could just be a pullback because we need a pullback and start ripping again. It could, but again, there's not enough of a positive case in my mind to believe that we're going to start ripping. And unless you could have had a short squeeze, it would have been today. And you had a chance last week to break, and it didn't break. So I kept saying that 4K mark is holding. There is too much sell pressure there for it to break. There's not enough positive news. Hopium is not positive news. Hopium will shoot you up 200 points to a strong resistance where the sell pressure is waiting. And if you don't have strong enough conviction that in the next 6 months things are going to be good, it's going to give and it's going to sell off again. And so it's taken a while, right? It took the first day we made it up to the 4K mark. We held the whole day, and then now we started selling off. Given, you had the Powell, that's a very much concern, a black swan nobody saw coming. And then you have, again, Bullard saying it's a 50-point basis move. So this rally was based off of that we were only going to have a 25-point basis move. The Fed have already mentioned that they want it over 5. Right now we're sitting at 4.5. So we get another 50-point basis move that puts it at 5, right where the Fed wants us. And at that point, maybe they do a 20. Then they start doing 25-point increments. And seeing, we have to see on the next core what it looks like. Again, that inflation doesn't matter. That inflation is still high. Core inflation is still high in general, but that's not what's causing people to have this crazy growth rate on credit cards. That's what we've been talking about this whole time. So you have to pay attention to that. So nonetheless, whether this is a pullback, there's solid support here again. Again, it's breaking, and we really have to see how this ends up tomorrow. If it does hold essentially the 39.31 tomorrow, we could get another push and retest back up to the 4K mark, our 39.90. And at that point, that would be your break, retest, and then sell off, in my mind. Again, now you have some strong support here, roughly around the 3,900. Again, you might rattle around here till monetary policy, something I talked about yesterday. And monetary policy is on the 1st. Next week is blackout period for the Fed. We'll see where we go from there. Again, this is day by day, new information. Again, if something gets worse with Powell, that's going to be a concern. We don't know. Again, he is older. You have to take that in consideration. Yes, he's a very much probably the most powerful man in the world right now, and he's sick. So yes, if something happens to him and he passes, you're going to introduce a lot of panic in the world, and you're going to see a huge drop to no lows. That would be something to drive us to new lows. I said we needed a bigger catalyst to drive us to new lows. When is it going to break? It's Powell this time. Even if something happens to Powell and we drop, what's to say foreclosures start rolling in? That's going to add more sell pressure. That's the last thing you want, something to happen to Powell, and then you start getting foreclosures. You get someone in there that doesn't want to be in the position. They're panicky. You're going to, right? This is why you have to be cool and level-headed when you're in those positions, because if you are not, if you seem panicky at all, which, Powell has shown sometimes, I've seen him sometimes over the past year where he's been shaking up there giving those speeches because he knows people are waiting on every word that comes out of his mouth. If he says the wrong thing, it can destroy markets. And so you're going to get someone in there that's panicky, and then what's going to happen, right? You're just going to drive more fear in the market. And so that's the last thing you want. You don't want this cascading effect to happen, and it's going to. I could see us dive down to the 3K mark that Goldman Sachs was predicting, maybe even lower. It depends on timing. Like I said, all these things depend on timing. If this cascading events start occurring, yes, that's more sell pressure. We needed new catalysts to start selling off deeper into what Goldman Sachs was predicting. And I said, well, there's a possibility we could hit 3,200, but we need a new catalyst. We have a new catalyst now. Again, maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing. But you have to be mindful that if something does happen there, the market will crash at that point, especially at this sensitive moment that we're currently going through. Nonetheless, so that's where we're at with that. We will see. Again, I'm not trying to drive fear. What I'm trying to do is educate, take emotion out of it. Something I try to keep reiterating, take emotion out of it. When you're talking about the markets, you cannot have emotion. It takes a long time to lose emotion in the market. But after getting burnt a fair number of times, you'll realize that you need to take emotion out. You need to become numb in the market, and you're not going to get 100% there. I'm not always 100% non-emotional, but vast majority of the time, I'm not emotional when I'm in the market. So being said, if you can do that, the better off you'll be. The quicker you can get to that point, the better off you'll be. And so you just have to be mindful and look at things objectively. What that is a possibility. What are the options if this happens? You're going to introduce a lot of panic if that happens, and just be mindful of that. So again, we'll see. We'll open up tomorrow. If this thing gaps down for some crazy reason and we are sitting at 3,900, I know that's a 30-point gap, but considering what we had today, that Powell's sick, if this thing gaps below the 3,900, this thing is going to complete sell off tomorrow down to 3,800. I could see a 100-point drop if we gap that far. If we grab 30 points overnight, potentially 80, 100 points tomorrow, could very well happen. The Powell thing is a very legit thing. Again, and 50-point basis move. Both of those things back to back. There's talks of a 50-point basis move. You're going to get more Fed coming out for the next 2 days because you can't hear from them next week. So they're going to talk more and get on as much media coverage as they can over the next 2 days about what to expect from monetary policy. So we see. But I think I'm done beating that horse. So Bitcoin starting to sell off again. It's holding that essentially that 22K mark. We'll see if this thing does come down. It does need a pullback. Could potentially see a gap fill back down here. Does look like a bull flag. Again, it really just depends. Is this where crypto separates from the market? I don't think so. It's been so closely related to the market, and this pump has been pure hopium. It has held extremely well through the FTX stuff, which is remarkable. But there's some other potential catalysts, exchanges that could be going bankrupt, and some other stuff being uncovered. By God, if any of that happens, you're going to introduce panic in crypto, and then that's going to be another gut punch to crypto. And you could see potentially the 12K mark or 10K mark if that happens. So again, this is the time of cleansing. Over the past 2 years, we've just been absolutely parabolic. This is what happens. It's nasty. There's nothing fun about what's going on. This is why I say you need to learn how to play both sides of the market, because it can help you tremendously. Because right now, you're essentially having to the downside what you had the last 2 years to the upside. So if you're able to play the downside, it would be the same thing. You play which direction, which favors the market, not play against it. You continue to play against it. You can get wins here and there, but if you play with the trend, right, this is where the whole trend is your friend, helps out. Sometimes, again, hopium will pump. You let hopium pump, and when hopium starts dying off, you play the trend. A lot of patience is needed. Remove emotion. So that's where Bitcoin is. Watching that, it could, like I said, it really needs to break out essentially the 23K mark for me to believe that this thing is going to start having an attempt to rip up. So we'll see there. The dollar, again, huge pump back up today. Again, you have this like double zone right here. So this thing is kind of like playing in between. Again, bulls, you want this thing to break down. It needs to break down below 100 again. Bears, you want this thing creeping back up. You want this back over 105 if you want to have a chance for this thing to start screaming back up. Again, that's just going to put us in a bad position in general. If you're not in the position for that, to know there's a lot of hopium going on in the market, and people want the market to turn. They're tired of the bad news, but we're going to see a lot more bad before we see good. But be objective. Don't take anything personal. Don't get upset. Remove emotion and look at it objectively and how can you take advantage of it. So let's see. Tesla, massive rip. This does look like a break of the trend and a retest, but something I keep reiterating is these break and retest, these things fail and they come right back in the trend line. We'll see if that's the case for Tesla. Tesla really strong. It hasn't had a solid move like this in a while. So it was good to see us a nice pump. Is a break in the retest of the 20 EMA daily. Maybe this thing starts pumping tomorrow. You don't want this thing back below essentially 124. If we break back below that, again, we're going to be in trouble. We're going to see the 104, and then who knows after that. You don't want to keep banging against this 104 because it could lead to a bigger drop if that's the case. So we're going to have to see there. Apple, again, still strong. Ascending wedge, though. You have to be careful of that. It's, again, pinned between the 50 EMA and the 20 EMA. If this thing breaks that back down below, essentially the 134, again, could be an issue. You did get a nice break and retest, but again, it needs a hold and continue pushing up. We'll see. Tech has strength, but now you're starting to see a lot of weakness in value, weakness in banks. Tech isn't strong enough at this point, I think, to hold the market up like it did, a year ago. There's still too many issues with chips and just the way things are currently. So you're going to have earnings, and that's going to expose a lot. Especially, it's not going to help that Tesla and Apple are going to get hit bad because of lockdowns that's been happening in China. So just keep that in mind. Boeing, again, you don't want this thing breaking below the 206. Again, you're going to gap down to the 192 if that happens. You got some support there. If that breaks, again, you got support at the 174. Again, very, very parabolic moves, no retests. That's the problem. This is where the meat of the move is here. And value starts losing steam. That's going to be the market. That move is going to come in the market, in index, because right now, again, tech is very weak. Even though it's shown strength the past couple of days, I don't think it's enough to provide that hopium to hold up the market. This is the problem. Banks starting to show weakness. JPM, again, you don't want this thing breaking back down to the 131 mark and then potentially breaking the 130 mark. You break that, you're going to fill this gap down to 121. Doesn't look like a big move, but for the market, it's a huge move. Goldman Sachs, again, horrible earnings. If this thing breaks the 344 tomorrow, you got another big drop down to the 322. Then an even potentially, you got a speed bump here roughly around the 300, and then you got another big drop here down to the 288 for Goldman Sachs. Again, if the banks start really falling, that's going to be your sign that tech can't hold up the market alone. If banks start giving out, if the banks can at least hold, tech can push, and the market can push up. If the banks can't hold and the banks just start selling off, tech can only do so much, value can only do so much, then everything just starts coming down. So just keep that in mind. So again, we'll see. We have Netflix tomorrow night, and we will see. And then we have another full week next week, and a lot more bigger earnings, a lot of more exposure. We're trying to understand where the market is, where the consumer is. Again, retail numbers came out not looking good. So your Amazons, your Shopify's, all those, they're going to get hit bad. Something we talked about before. And the good thing to keep in mind is, where is Target? Where's Walmart? They got hit massively in Q3, right? Target alone lost 100 million. People just stealing stuff. So what's going to happen during Q4 for the holidays? What do you think happened? I think it's probably a lot worse, and we're going to get some probably crazy numbers coming from there. So that would be interesting to watch too. So nonetheless, we'll take it day by day. If we gap down, that's my move. I'll be looking for the retest in the short tomorrow. Again, no bounce after those reports. Again, how does Powell do overnight? You don't want any news on Powell, things to keep on watch. Again, bankruptcies, foreclosures, those are things we are aware of right now. And who knows what else? And obviously the war that's going on right now in Taiwan right now, the yen is being messed with continually. The Bank of Europe, Bank of England has been messing their bonds as well. Again, something happened. It could be it. See, right? Like you have to be very careful right now. The hopium is being killed right now with what happened today. So whatever momentum we had off of hopium in a 25-point basis move is essentially killed in my mind. We need a bigger catalyst to start pushing off, because now you lost that 25-point basis move, which was pushing us. What's the next thing that's going to drive us? Right now, I'm not seeing anything. All I'm seeing is a lot more new negative stuff that can drive us down lower. Being said, we take advantage of the market. We're neutral. We take advantage. We react to what's happening. The overall trend right now is down. So that's what I play. Till I see something different. Again, I'm a permeable. I'm not bear. Don't like talking bear. But right now, I see no reason to push up. There's no reason in my mind to push up. So we take it day by day, and we'll see where we go. So I'll see you guys on the next one.